Welcome to Sacred Harmony, where science, intuition, and lived experience meets to restore balance within the mind. I'm your host Anya, and today we are exploring coherence practices, how meditation, music, breath, and somatic awareness can work together to create harmony at the nervous system level. My guest today is Dr. Rochelle Vogt, mindfulness researcher and trauma resolution expert who helps midlife women shift lifelong patterns by accessing the deeper intelligence of the superconscious. Her work bridges neuroscience, somatic practice, and intuitive guidance, offering ways to dissolve subconscious blocks without reliving trauma. She is widely known for translating complex mind body science into grounded, actionable insights that change how people relate to healing. This conversation is about moving from survival to coherence and from coping to creation. So let's begin. Welcome to the show. It's such an honor to have you.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mhm. So, Dr. Rochelle, you often speak about coherence rather than just calm or regulation. How do you define coherence in the context of mind body healing?
Yes. Well, in this context, when we talk about coherence, we're really kind of dialing into what we call heart brain coherence. And the heart is actually a powerful rhythmic organ, and it has 40,000 neurites, and it's sending more signals to the brain than the brain actually sends to the heart. So when we can use, Heart Math has a beautiful body of work, and when we can use the techniques that they've really explored and demonstrated are very powerful, we can use simple techniques to access this powerful electromagnetic field of the heart space. And when we do so, for example, by bringing into the heart awareness or intention around the heart area, a positive emotion, for example, and sinking in and really bathing our consciousness with that experience of, for example, gratitude and focusing on the heart space. By doing so, we drop into a particular um, rhythm in our heart rate variability that allows the brain to also come online. And when we have that heart brain coherence, it's literally sending that coherent signal throughout our entire system and into the field around us as well. It's really one of the most powerful ways we know we can access that state of coherence. And from there, you know, deepen into, for example, a meditation or a healing practice. But that state where we have that natural entrainment between the heart and the brain is that heart brain coherence.
Absolutely. And why is coherence such a powerful foundation for long term change?
Well, for one, it's really that biological doorway to peace, which is really what all of us are seeking at the end of the day when we come back to being present in the moment. We may be pulled to and fro throughout the day. We want to come back to that sense of peace. And it isn't just something we think our way into, it's something that really the heart can teach the brain when the body feels safe. We have these experiences. For example, we might have trauma in life, and it creates a lot of noise in the nervous system, kind of like a radio stuck between stations. The body kind of stays braced, the mind stays alert or hypervigilant, and it's really difficult to access sometimes this sense of peace. So when we can return to our coherence practices, whether we're using particular music that appeals and allows us to rest into the moment, or we're going into the breath, or just our intention to sort of bring the body back to a sense of safety and therefore more of a peaceful presence, all of that can kind of come back to this coherent state. And in terms of the long term benefits, as we do these practices, our heart rate variability, which is a factor that's measured when we can continually practice this coherent state, and it's as we get better and better at it, we're actually seeing, the health, the vitality of literally every organ system in the body actually increase. And as we are able to do that for our body, and our being and certainly our spirit and our soul, that ripples into all of our choices, all of our ways of showing up in the world, the aspects of our health, our longevity, our relationships. It's really kind of a beautiful way to look at that analogy of really beginning within. And when we can create that peace within, it ripples out into all areas of our life.
Yes, that distinction really lands because coherence feels like alignment, not suppression.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. A lot of times we reach for, I'm guilty of this too. And I know I'm trying to reach a place of peace, but I'm often kind of using a breath or a technique to sort of really kind of soothe or get through a difficult moment. And you can't really, you can't really cheat this, it really is a way of dropping into the truth within our system. And, for your listeners who are interested in having a tool, the Heart Math organization does sell biofeedback devices that allow you to practice the heart brain coherent state and sort of get that feedback so you know that you're actually in it, you're actually sustaining it, and you're actually seeing that grow. But yeah, it's definitely the opposite of suppression. We're not going to find that coherent rhythm if we're sort of kind of, I want to say, trying to lie to ourselves that we're just, we're getting through or we're just putting a band aid on the situation. The coherent state is actually that real, true dropping in experience.
Totally. And your own awakening came through uncovering a pre verbal trauma. How did that experience reshape how you understand healing beyond traditional psychology?
Yeah, that was a very interesting experience. I was in a pre and perinatal psychology course in graduate school and essentially had a spontaneous remembering that I was not alone in the womb. Um, and through, talking with my mother and researching, it's, they told her she had twins, but they didn't do scans regularly back then. So, um, yeah, it was very surprising and it it kind of, really blew my mind in the concept of our consciousness can hold memories long before we understand, that the brain even the brain in a growing fetus is equipped with what we think is the proper equipment for having, memories and recollection, but we've learned a lot even since then, the last number of years in our understanding of quote unquote, where memories are stored. We used to think that they were in the brain, and now we're beginning to really embrace, in science, this idea and this understanding that we're electromagnetic beings that create a field around us. And so, you know, where exactly memories are held is still up for debate. Um, we can understand some of the machinery behind it, but consciousness is to kind of really come into a deeper understanding of that through my own experience of having clear recollections and memories and experiences that kind of stretch our understanding of how memories are held was a really powerful experience, and it really goes to show you that having that open mind even after studying within any particular domain is just really important because we think we know a lot, but we're learning every day that we don't know as much as we think we do. So I think it really opened my eyes and my heart to deeper understandings of the power of our consciousness and the experience we have as conscious beings. And, that rolls into how I approach, my work and beginning to bring in as we, as any of us face difficulty in life, coming back to the theme and the focus for your audience here, that idea of sacred harmony, it really is what happens when the rhythms of the heart, the breath, the brain, and the world around us move together and move in unison. And having that experience that I had, understanding the depth of our consciousness that goes beyond a conventional understanding, really allowed me to sit with a deeper awareness and presence for people who are experiencing and processing a wide range of um, traumatic events, for example, or life experiences that are challenging. And, our consciousness just continues to expand, and we continue to learn that we are not just this vessel, that we're actually a very complex, intricate quantum technology that's operating with this powerful consciousness. And yeah, it was definitely a powerful journey. And I'm blessed every day to bring that experience into my work to help be present for others as they have their own transformational experiences.
That's amazing. And what do you think conventional approaches often miss when working with early or implicate trauma?
Yeah. Um, well, I think one of the difficulties is that oftentimes people are working through these issues within paradigms that are still by their very nature kind of rigid in our understanding. But over the decades, well, many fields have expanded their understanding, their awareness, and for example, in the field of psychology, Dr. Weiss, many years ago, began to have his own experience in his practice with people who were experiencing past lives. And, he went about to produce, a very um, deep and wide body of work that contributed to many people in the field of psychology, expanding their understanding of what is possible, for example. And there's been quite a bit of research, actually, excuse me, to date with this idea of past lives and how that plays into our experience. So, excuse me. So I think in terms of how, what conventional approaches might be missing, I think obviously just depends on the practitioner, but I think that we oftentimes think we understand that it is a very specific black and white when the reality is it can be much more complex. And we're growing into a time where we are finding out that complexity. We now know, for example, that DNA is really kind of it's an antenna, a light antenna, and they've actually found a way to use DNA to hold, massive amounts of data. So, we begin to wonder, like, well, as we grow in our awareness of what consciousness is, and now we understand our DNA in a totally different way, you know, we are this amazing technology that we're just beginning to understand. So, as we look at trauma, I think when we can use approaches like some of the techniques I use, like the MAP method, where we can assist in relieving the emotional intensity without, we don't remove the memory, but we remove the emotional charge, and it can be done very, very quickly. And I think that that was something that wasn't believed to be possible, maybe a decade ago. People didn't understand that we could actually shift trauma that quickly. So as we broaden our understanding and as the advancements in neuroscience continue, for example, the MAP method works with the window of reconsolidation that was discovered in the field of neuroscience. So we can kind of take advantage of that and shift, and we literally can see the neurons in the brain shifting. They have the technology to actually see that. And And then immediately the person feels like that intensity is gone. They still know that something happened. Um, they don't lose the memory, but they're absolutely blown away that the intensity is gone. It's no longer driving decisions and causing stress and, that lack of coherence when we have these traumatic events. Even when we try to, like you brought up earlier, suppress it, put it aside, it's still causing um, that lack of harmony, that sort of disharmony within the body. So, it kind of is a wonderful time to be alive to realize that we don't have to stay stuck in these traumatic experiences, whether they were early in life, whether they were from the womb or, pre-verbal or, early days or, any time in our life. We can shift those experiences, release those traumatic experiences, and then have the power of those coherence practices be even more potent.
That reframing feels liberating, healing without having to relive or restory the pain.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's probably I think one of the most powerful, coming from, um, before I got my doctorate, I did a master's in counseling psychology and it's very focused on, many different approaches in talk therapy, which can be very therapeutic, in many situations, but for a long time, the belief was that people needed to retell their story 2 or 3 times and allow it to process. But what happens is that because of the way our brain works, and the way our subconscious mind works, we can get stuck in those traumatic experiences. A process of reliving them is just kind of allowing those circuits to play that tune again and again. And now we understand we can go and we can access it without having to relive it. Allow those experiences just by recalling, you know, the general time in your life, like, oh, that time that this something happened. You can pull those memories from dormant memory into active experience and actually allow them to shift. It's a powerful process that's surprisingly simple and, allows us to circumvent the telling the story repeatedly, which often just keeps people stuck in that biochemical cascade of the original trauma.
Yes, definitely. And you integrate meditation, music, breath, and somatic work. How do these practices work together at a neurological level to create harmony?
Yeah, I think that using sound, the breath, and different coherence practices, we're helping to sort of allow the system to retune. Um, you know, Music is vibration, and the nervous system is exquisitely sensitive to vibration. So when we listen to slow, rhythmic, harmonic sound, our breath and heart begin to follow it automatically. So, using sacred music, chanting, and even the sounds of nature can feel like medicine to our nervous system because they are literally guiding the body back into rhythm. It's not metaphorical, it's literally physiological. So, and I think that's also why today some of the best advice that anyone can get is to find a way to spend more time in nature because that original music, the bird song and the sounds of the wind and the things that we can get access to when we experience nature is very soothing to the nervous system. And that is what we want to experience and then allow ourselves to recreate that many times over in our life until we are building a new rhythm that's different from the one that we may have been getting patterned into, which is the coping and the suppression and the stress.
I love how tangible that makes it. Not mystical, but measurable and embodied.
Absolutely. And when we can get our brain to sort of naturally entrain to the rhythms, whether it's nature or using, rhythmic sacred music or chanting, it's like bringing all the instruments into unison in that in an orchestra in a very harmonic way. That coherent state is the place through where we can reclaim our truth and where we can really practice what I think is probably the most important skill outside of of building coherence. We can practice discernment, and from that place of really dropping in and being in a place of coherence, we can discern what is appropriate and right for us. And that is something that I feel is really important because there is no expert or um, you know, no person on a pedestal anywhere in any modality or in any domain that can tell someone their truth. Everyone has to be able to find the coherent place where they can experience and discern their own truth. And that's why I really feel it's so important for people to develop these skills and be able to use them throughout their life because we're all going to face those moments where we have to drop in and understand what's important for us and what choice we need to move forward. And that's that skill of discernment that really only happens from that place of true coherence.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, listeners, before we close, here's a simple coherence practice you can try anytime. Sit comfortably. Take a slow breath in through your nose and a longer breath out through your mouth. Now, bring to mind a sound, song, or rhythm that feels steady and supportive. Breathe with it for 1 minute. This is coherence. Breath, attention, and emotion moving together. If today's conversation helped you see healing through a new lens, consider sharing this episode with someone who's ready to move beyond survival and into harmony. And if Sacred Harmony continues to support your journey, leaving a review helps these conversations reach others who are seeking grounded, integrative healing. Healing doesn't require reliving the past, it requires learning how to listen to the body's deeper intelligence. Thank you for joining us. I'm Anya, and this has been Sacred Harmony. Stay coherent, stay curious, and let harmony become your natural state.